Okay, we're rolling.
Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you. Hope you're doing well. 365 days of content this year, 2026. Wow, it's a lot. I know. I went to AI and I asked AI a question. Here's what I asked AI as I wanted to know. I said, hey, I use Perplexity for this. Perplexity.ai is my favorite tool. I'm not a ChatGPT person. I like Perplexity. It's just personal choice. I went to Perplexity and I said, hey, compare the How to Podcast series to other active podcasts about podcasting. And then I qualified. How does the How to Podcast series stand out from the rest? What makes it different, and what are listeners saying about the show? What could be better, and what should the podcast host lean into that is really working and resonating with audience members? So that's what I put out there into Perplexity. And I want to share the results with you. And I would encourage you to do something similar like this for your own show. I'm using the free version of Perplexity. It doesn't cost anything. So what I'm doing here, you can do today at perplexity.ai. So I'd encourage you to take something like this prompt, this question, put it in about your show, replace my show name with your show name, and see what you get. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So again, I'll put the actual prompt exactly as I just read it in the show notes for you to copy and paste. If you want to use it, great, there you go. Or tweak it as you wish. But at least it's there as a starting point. Let's figure out, and I'll give you the response and what Perplexity says about this very show. So thank you for being here. And let's keep going. All right, here we go. Okay, so let's get into this result. I'm interested to read this with you. I kind of skimmed it quickly before hitting record, but I'm going to read it along as is. I'm not going to self-edit and just let you know what Perplexity said in relation to my question about this show compared to all the other podcasts about podcasting. Let's see what kind of trouble we can get into. Here we go. Okay, so the How to Podcast series stands out most for its practical, community-first, action-oriented approach. Thanks. It is built to help listeners start and grow a podcast with small, easily executable steps. I like that, while also emphasizing that podcasting is done in community and using rotating co-hosts and mini episodes to keep the format fresh. Compared to other active podcasts about podcasting, it appears less like a generic industry news show. Oh, thank you. And more like a hands-on coaching room where listeners get tactics, encouragement, and a sense of belonging. Aw, I like that. I really do. Okay, what makes it different? A lot of podcasting shows lean heavily into broad education, business strategy, or creator interviews. But the How to Podcast series blends technical advice, encouragement, and community building in one place. The rotating co-host format also gives it more of a conversational, collaborative feel than a single host lecture style, which helps it feel alive and less repetitive. Oh, yay! That mix of practical how-to content and relational energy is a real differentiator, thank you, in a crowded podcasting education niche. What do listeners seem to value about the How to Podcast series? Public-facing descriptions and episode examples suggest that listeners are being drawn to the show for its actionable podcasting guidance, especially from around SEO, audience growth, guest booking, audio setup, social media, and making money. The show's messaging also consistently reinforces authenticity, community, and your voice matters, which is the kind of positioning that tends to resonate with creators who feel overwhelmed or isolated. Yes. The Fatima Bay episode description specifically highlights themes like being real, being different, and building community, which suggests the show is resonating when it goes beyond tactics into identity and confidence. Fatima Bay was on the show a long time ago, and I love her. She's a great podcaster. What could be better? Uh-oh, here we go. So before I read this, I love getting notes about how to make the show better. Just so you know, like, this does not bother me at all, and I haven't even read it yet. Okay, I'm looking away from my screen as I record this little piece. I haven't even read this part yet. I have no idea what Perplexity is going to say about how this show could be better, but I love hearing this kind of stuff. And what I love even more is hearing it from you. Howtopodcast.ca, a little plug right in the middle here. Go there. There's a link in my calendar for a coffee chat, 30 minutes free, you and I. And if you have any notes, any feedback about this show on maybe topics or how to make it better or anything at all, I have the utmost desire to connect with you and make this show better for you and for everybody else. So if that's you and you have some notes for me, please, come on. Howtopodcast.ca, calendar link's always there. You and I can have a virtual coffee. I would love to hear from you, really. Okay, now back to the answer. Here we go. Let's see what happens. Based on public information available, the biggest opportunity is to make the show's distinctive point of view even sharper and easier to recognize at a glance. The podcast covers a lot of useful ground, which is a strength, but the breadth can make the brand feel more general unless each episode clearly ties back to a few signature promises, like practical steps, encouragement, and community for podcasters. I like that. Yeah. Another improvement area is packaging the listener feedback more visibly, because ratings and reviews are a strong trust signal and help new listeners understand what the show is doing well. Okay, so I don't ask for reviews for this show. And I've been doing that on purpose because it seems very, I don't know, to me it feels very self-focused. And I understand that getting reviews and ratings do help. They don't help your podcast to be found. That's kind of a misnomer. They do help your podcast to be understood by others who don't know what the show's about. So I do have some pretty great ratings and reviews, which is great. There's a website called mopod.com, which pulls in all my Apple reviews from the globe, from all over the world. So I can see where I am, and it's a great way to do that. If you put the word charts before mopod.com, I'll have a link in the show notes. You can actually go there. It's free, totally free. It doesn't cost anything. You don't have to sign up, no credit card. You can actually go in, search up your podcast, and see if you're ranking in the top 200 anywhere in the world on Apple, which is great. So that's one thing for you to take a look at, and maybe that'll help you to encourage your audience to do that. So if you are listening on Apple, I know I don't have a huge Apple presence for the show, but if you're listening on Apple and you have a moment, then thanks. I'd love for you to get to share your feedback however you feel about the show. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And leave a detailed review. That would be really good for me. I'd love to see that. So thanks. If you're doing that, great. I appreciate that. But yeah, so that's one thing, two things, that Perplexity, based on its algorithms and knowledge, says that this show could do better. And I accept that. I think that's great. What to lean into for the show? The host should lean hardest into the parts that are already working. The practical advice, small step teaching, and authentic encouragement. The rotating co-host model is also worth amplifying because it creates variety and makes the show feel like a community conversation rather than a solo tutorial series like that. Most importantly, the show should keep foregrounding the idea that podcasting is not a solo journey because the community message appears to be one of the strongest and most memorable things that sets this show apart, which I like. Okay, audience-faced positioning. Side note, Perplexity's talking like a person here now, which is interesting. Perplexity says, if I, Perplexity, were sharpening the show's public message, I'd describe it this way. This is a podcasting show for creators who want clear steps, real encouragement, and a supportive community while they build their show. That positioning is stronger than simply saying podcast tips, because it combines utility with identity and belonging. In practice, that means doubling down on episode titles, clips, and descriptions that promise one concrete outcome, one emotional payoff, and one community takeaway. Okay, well, got some work to do there. I like that. And then it gives me a list of best next moves for this show. Some best next moves, according to Perplexity, for the How to Podcast series in comparison to all of the other podcasts about podcasting. Here are some things, 4 things. First, highlight episodes that produce the strongest listener response around confidence, growth, authenticity, and community. Check. 2, use recurring content pillars so that the audience instantly knows what the show delivers. Launch, grow, monetize, improve audio, and build community. Good. Number 3, build more listener reviews into promos, because reviews help convey a committed audience that can attract new listeners. Yes, I got that. Perfect. Number 4, keep the rotating co-host model visible in branding because it reinforces the show's collaborative identity. I love it. So that's an example of a review that you can do on your own for your own show. You don't need to hire somebody, pay them $1 bajillion to do that for you. You can do that yourself. And I'd encourage you to do that for your own podcast. And tweak the prompt if you're not getting the response you want. Have it do it a second time, a third time. And that might help you just to get some identity for your show and to help you get a sense of what your podcast is doing or not doing. Now, you can do that on your own, which is great. It's like the self-serve gas pump. You can take care of this yourself, or you can have somebody come out, wash your windows, check your air pressure in your tires, check your oil, fill up your tank, all of that. And that's what I do. I give reviews for podcasts all the time. And we work through it together, listen to parts of your episode, talk about the podcast, how it could be better. And all of my suggestions are they're just suggestions. From my personal point of view, with over 2,500 episodes, half of those being interviews, I do have a few things I've learned and I can really help you. But they're suggestions. You need to do what's right for you, what resonates with you and your show and your goal for your show. All of that is up to you. But if you're looking for a podcast partner, somebody who really does care, who really will go listen to your show, unlike other podcast gurus who don't listen to your show but have a lot of opinions about what you should do next, I actually invest the time to go listen, and I love doing that. howtopodcast.ca has my links. We can get together and do a review. We can publish it onto the show if you want and let people hear the review so people can hear your show as well. I'd love to do that. If you're open to that, let me know. If not, we can do it in private and we can do it just for you and I. No one else will ever hear this. And I'd love to help you. So if you're looking for help, you're looking for assistance, again, I don't think anyone should podcast alone. And keeping everything that I've heard in line today from Perplexity, I'm encouraged that the show is resonating in a way that really matters. And I hope that your show does the same. So if you're not happy with your show, before you give up on it, before you make a big major change, let's chat. Maybe there's a few tweaks you and I can do together to bring back the joy of podcasting for you and your show and for your audience. Happy to help. howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for being here. Perplexity, thanks for your help. Again, the prompt that I used for this episode in the show notes, and as well, kind of the results and what Perplexity has told me about this very show. Thank you for being here. Let's talk again soon. See you tomorrow. Bye. Hey, it's Dave. Thank you for sticking around to the end. This is where we do our call to action, or pathway to engagement, as I like to call it. And here's what's interesting. I've been doing this podcast for years now, hosting meetups, helping podcasters, editing for people, doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And when we have people who follow the show reach out to me and say, Dave, guess what? I'm like, what? They said, I just hired my first consultant. I'm going to go work with them and help me with my podcast. And I kind of go, wait a minute. You what? They're like, yeah, I found a podcast consultant and they're going to help me with my show. It's hard to pretend to be happy Why? Because I want to work with you. Wait a minute. Like, Dave, the guy, Dave, who's been doing the How to Podcast series and 8 other podcasts, and the guy that's been with you the whole time, and we've done meetups, we've done time together, we've spent time together, and you've hired somebody else. Now, maybe I'm not your person. That's okay. I'm totally fine with that, by the way. Keep coming back. I love having you here. But if you're like, well, I didn't hire you because you don't have anything like that, do you? And I do. And I have been for a long time. And I don't talk about it enough, apparently, because people are going to other people looking for things that Dave does. So, in the spirit of Dave, and in the spirit of making better connections with you, I do have personal coaching in podcasting. I have podcast community. I have all of the resources. I have all of the background, the history in podcasting, and the love for you as a fellow podcaster. If you're looking for a podcast coach, somebody who can walk with you, somebody who cares about you, someone who is your challenger, your cheerleader, and your coach. Because even though I've said on the show you can't be all three, I think I am. And I want to help you. So, howtopodcast.ca. Please, before you go searching anywhere else, come to where we started and where we met first, right here. I'd love to help you. Howtopodcast.ca. Come reach out to me. I want to talk to you. Thanks. You're still here? Great. Okay. This is bonus stuff. Just at the end of the episode, real quick. Think of your podcast like a meal. Is your podcast a light snack? Is your podcast a quick dash through the drive-thru? Is your podcast a big family dinner where nobody's in a hurry to leave the table because the food is so good that people just stick around? Is your podcast a quick eating of dinner fast in front of the television before you go out for the evening? Is your podcast a meal at a loud bar with TVs blaring and people talking and excitement? What is your podcast? If your podcast was a meal, and then lean into that. That could be something that sets your podcast apart from all the other shows, like your show and your content. Is the feel, the tone, the theme, the atmosphere of your show. If your podcast was a meal, what would it be like? And then lean into that and get some feedback. Howtopodcast.ca.